Welcome to Shore Perspectives, a community feature of WESR Radio, highlighting the spirit of the shore from those who call it home.
I'm Rebecca Johnson, and I'm from Accomack, Virginia. About 3 years ago, it happened in March. I will never forget. I never forget the day of diagnosis. But I was walking my dog, and I found a lump in my left armpit. And when that happened, it wasn't there the night before. It was like all of the sudden it's there. And so I went in and I showed my husband. I said, look, feel this, something's not right. And, he was like, I think you need to go to the doctor. And I've been in education all my life and in my career. And I was like, if I go to the doctor, I'm going to come home with the flu. And then I'm going to be out of work for a couple of days. And, I didn't want to get sick. He's like, just go. Stop whining. Just go. I went, and it was one of those situations where everyone, it starts out, hi, how are you? Everything is cordial. And then when they started looking at the lump, everyone got serious. Nobody wanted to confirm anything because they don't want to say cancer right away. And I was a little bit in denial. My husband was like, maybe we should wrap our head around the fact that this could be happening. But it turned out that it was cancer. And I had stage 3C breast cancer, which I know the stagings have changed in a couple of years, and it sounded like I was kind of dancing on 4. And I didn't have breast cancer in the family, and I just didn't know how this could possibly happen. The first thing I said to the doctor was, you must have the wrong file, because you can't possibly be telling me that I have cancer. I just couldn't imagine that being 43 years old, I was going to be going through this. And I thought, oh, well, I'm definitely going to be the youngest thing happening at the cancer center, and I was not. There were people from all different ages, backgrounds, ethnicities. It wasn't you or me, it was us. We were all there together. Starting chemotherapy, it's red, bright red, and they have to pump it slowly in order for it to be effective. And it has a nasty, nasty effect on you after it's been pumped. One thing is you really don't know what to expect. So I had packed just about, as my husband would say, everything in the kitchen sink to go with me. I had blankets and, snacks, and, my mom went with me, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to be prepared. I didn't need any of those things because the cancer center was so wonderful and they provided everything. But I was like waiting for something, whether I was going to be violently ill. I was waiting for my hair to instantly fall out, and it didn't happen right away. It was like that night, my husband's family came and visited and brought us dinner, and everybody was just kind of looking at me like, what's going to happen next? Was she going to morph into something? What's going to happen? And it wasn't until about maybe 2 days later that I started getting ill. I always had really long hair, and I woke up one morning and it was like a crown across my pillow of just hair, and it was coming out in clumps. I would call my husband crying and saying, it's all falling out. And his cousin Amber came by and shaved my head that day. And that was a big moment. The emotion was just so overwhelming that I would go lay down, and I could hear her and my mom like whispering in the kitchen, like, is she gonna be okay?
It's one thing to lose your hair. Your hair will grow back.
Right.
Facing a mastectomy and the way you wrote about looking at your body that morning.
That was hard.
Realizing the change that was going to be happening.
Yes. And I had some of the best surgeons, the best. I mean, even as I was being wheeled in, a nurse told me, and pointed out the doctors that were working on me, and they're like, if this happened to me, those would be the only people I'd go to. So that says something to me when someone in the medical field says they're the best. And so I felt good about that, but I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to look like. The plastic surgeon kept saying, "You're going to look amazing." And I felt like he came to his word. But it's also, it's very, looking in the mirror and you see your body before and then you see your body after. It's hard. It's a different realization. The new normal was hard. It was a hard journey for my family, and we all came through it. That was one of the messages that I wanted people to know, is that yes, it's going to be hard. When you get that diagnosis, it's hard, but you really see who's there for you. And my husband, I just shout out to him because he was there for everything. And, he had to take on responsibilities that he wasn't used to. I tease him about the fact that he had to start grocery shopping. He likes to go with me grocery shopping sometimes, but it wasn't always a task that he would take on by himself or with children. And so, things were different for him. Our children experienced, all of a sudden, Mom can't pick up and go to your game, or Mom can't be at your swim meet because she can't get out of bed today. And so they had to focus on how to, move on. And also along with that, I had to realize that my life was different. And I tried the hardest to keep everything normal, and it doesn't work. It does not work. We were the most abnormal normal that you would ever see. A dear friend of our family, Jamie Morrison, her and her husband, people know him as Johnny Moe, locally, owner of Mallards. Jamie and Johnny put together a meal train for our family, and it lasted, I want to say, 3 or 4 months. And it was during my hardest time of treatment. And they put together this meal train in which someone came to our home every single day and brought our family a meal. And words cannot express how that made us feel. And yes, there were days that I didn't make it out of bed. Like, I always wanted to at least see who was bringing and greet them and thank them. But there were days I couldn't get up. And I always knew my family was fed, even though I knew they could take care of themselves. But it was the point that we're going to take care of you. In the beginning of this process, finding out your staging of your cancer and the ability of it to reoccur, the percentages of that, it was a little bit alarming. And our doctor had sat down with us, as my husband and I, and said, we really need to think about what the future is going to hold here. And, that's a scary conversation. And I'd like to say that I was listening during that conversation, but my mind was elsewhere. My husband listened to that conversation, and one of the things that he pulled from it was, we need to see some counseling, especially for our children's sake, because we didn't know if they were going to grow up without a mom. And so we did. We went to counseling. We sought that out as a family, and we did several sessions during that process. And some of them I couldn't attend because I was so sick. But the counselor had recommended that we all journal. And I always tease everyone in our family because when it came down to it, I was the one who journaled, and everybody was like, did she really mean we had to do that? And that's how this book came about. It's called She Became Mighty in Battle, The Face of Breast Cancer. As I started to look at things and how it could help women, not just locally, but anywhere that gets that diagnosis, that moment of finding out you have breast cancer, or any type of cancer. The process of going through a cancer treatment, everyone's journey is different, but you can pull things aside from this journey that you can associate with. And I've had a couple of women call me or email me and say, I read your book and that was my journey. and I just didn't know how to put it into words. Or they'd say, I started crying because that happened to me, and I know exactly what that feels like. As women, sometimes we don't want to talk about these things. And I wanted to make sure in this book that we as women talk about it. We have that open conversation. And not just women, men as well, because men can get breast cancer. My husband, TJ Johnson, did end up journaling a little bit. And what he did was he put together a caregiver's guide at the end, just to kind of talk about his experience, what to expect as a caregiver of someone who's going through cancer treatment, things to expect, and the things to do, the things that work, and that he found through trial and error of what to do. Okay, it's called She Became Mighty in Battle. It's The Face of Breast Cancer by Rebecca Johnson, and you can get it locally. Let's shop local at the Book Bin. One thing I've always noticed is that women don't like to talk about breast cancer. It's like we are always the caregivers in our families. We always we make it happen in our homes, and we have to take care of ourselves. If you feel a lump or a bump or anything that's unusual, go get it checked out. Don't wait, do it. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to have to do all that, and go to a doctor. Do it. It's important. Your life depends on it.
For Shore Perspectives and WESR Radio, I'm Kelley Gaskell.